So our road trip has begun. We got in really late last night. It was about midnight when we pulled into Bendigo, just on the shores of Lake Dunstan. We left home about 9:30, and we've had a really big day yesterday. We were filming our house with Bryce and Rasa from Living Big in a Tiny House, and the day before that we had a wedding. So we are off now, and yeah, we're into it. There wasn't much to film last night because it was pitch black, so we're away. After a windy first night's camp, we were on our way from Bendigo to Franz Josef via the Haast Pass.
What are we doing back here, Matt?
What do you mean? We're getting really cold legs so we can take an epic photo, hopefully. Yeah. Oh yeah. Dang, it's cold. Oh yeah. She's cold.
This chasm has been on my list to revisit ever since our last road trip up the west coast. This creek is literally off the side of the road with an epic waterfall. It's a bit of a hidden gem, and I'm so glad that we came back and revisited it with my camera this time round. You need to be prepared for getting cold feet because the waters here are icy cold, but if you can find this hidden gem along the West Coast Road, then I definitely recommend going for an adventure. Back to the truck, and I let Teddy out for a toilet stop, but I let him go in the wrong spot and he came out covered in hook grass. It took at least 45 minutes in the rain to brush and pull all of these out. None of us were very happy about it. But we were finally back on the road, and this drive through the West Coast is always spectacular. For a bit of luxury, we'd splashed out in Franz Josef for my birthday and booked a treehouse retreat. The place was incredible, and we even went out for tea at their restaurant where we were allowed to take Teddy with us. The next day we were off towards Hokitika. The sun was shining and the drive was beautiful. As you can probably tell, Teddy is a great road trip dog. He loves travelling, and we're so proud of how well he did with some of these long days of driving. We found some cool random spots to check out along our drive. Matt and I enjoy finding things to do and see that aren't so touristy, and even better, we often end up having these places entirely to ourselves. Yeah, so this wee township is called Remu, and we just stopped here and had a look at a couple of things. Some gold tunnels. Matt called right into the end of one. I bowed out about halfway in. And then the glowworm dell, which obviously in the middle of the day we couldn't see the glowworms, but it's an amazing little dell and really pretty spot. Now we're just doing a wee quick walk called the lightning track. We might stop for lunch and then continue on. We cooked lunch from the back of the truck in Hokitika and then took Teddy for a run on the beach. He loved chasing the waves and the birds. From Hokitika, we headed slightly inland to a dock campsite at Goldsboro where we set up camp for the night. The next morning, we did a dog-friendly walk through 2 old gold mining tunnels in the area. A friend had told me about this hidden paradise near Mirotuki Beach. We just happened to time it right for low tide because otherwise this spot would have been inaccessible. And the track down to this beach is much less of a walk and more of an overgrown, gnarly track down the side of a cliff face. You'll see in the video footage of us climbing back up what I mean.
So we just walk up there, down the cliff.
We didn't find the famous starfish, but we had good fun exploring this place all by ourselves.
So I've just climbed up into this hole where the waterfall comes from.
climb back up. Why do I always find gnarly places to go?
They're really fun. I like them.
They push my limits, but they always deliver on epicness. My favourite angle. Was it worth it, even though we didn't get to the starfish?
Yeah, got to climb up that waterfall.
Yeah, that was
Very
pretty
cool. Couple of sort of caves where it's all cut out from the sea.
It was cool.
The walk was pretty cool.
I don't think this is a walk.
Back on the road again towards Punakaiki, we found an awesome lunch spot 8 or so k's off the main road up a gravel track into the bush. This drive was like we'd entered into the movie set of Jurassic World, with towering limestone cliff faces and old growth native trees surrounding us. We parked up on a dry riverbed for lunch and unfolded the tent to dry out in the sunshine. We love taking these gambles of just heading up a random road and not knowing what's at the end of it. Sometimes it's nothing and it's a dead end, and other times we stumble across pure gold like we did this day. After a night in Punakaiki, we spent the morning doing the Pancake Rocks walk. Again, we'd struck it lucky, with a high tide making the surf spectacular and the blowholes breathtaking. Next on our list was the Cavern. This is a well-documented attraction in Punakaiki, so we were surprised that we had the place almost to ourselves yet again. This limestone cave contains 130 metres of passages to explore. If you go, make sure you take a torch. We decided to leave the coast behind for a bit and head to Reefton via the lower Buller Gorge. I feel like all the roads on the west of the South Island are utterly scenic, whether you're following the coast, winding through valleys or following a river. We made it to Reefton in the early afternoon and decided to push on and continue into Big River Mine, one of the many four-wheel drive tracks near Reefton. This track had been on our bucket list for a while and we wanted to make the most of the good weather because we knew rain was on the horizon for the end of the week. I'm so glad we got to tick this track off and enjoy it in the sunshine. The four-wheel drive track itself was relatively easy with nothing too technical. Matt had aired down our tyres which provided not only more traction but plenty of comfort over the rocky sections. The track was narrow a lot of the way, steep in a few places, not that the GoPro ever shows this well, and there were a couple of holes and steps that required decent ground clearance. Matt had an epic time and stopped to explore a couple of the mine shafts on our way in.
Pretty hard to see, but that goes for miles. Don't think I'll walk down there. A bit dodgy looking. Pretty cool though.
These mine shafts once connected to the vertical shaft at the poppet head site of the mine. Even if you're not into mining or history, the engineering feats of these old miners is mind-blowing. We set up camp for the evening, complete with curried sausages for tea, and enjoyed having this remote place to ourselves for the night. Big River Mine was a highly successful quartz mine operating in the late 1800s through the mid-1900s. Both the poppet head and the engine house have been restored in more recent years. This is not a place you want to rush through. Take your time and spend a whole day exploring the area. On the drive out, Matt decided he'd try to find a couple of harder lines for fun. So I got out and videoed, because I'd rather do that than be the nervous passenger.
How much flakes are you looking for?
Meanwhile, Teddy was not nearly as nervous a passenger as I was, because if he wasn't playing with his toys, he was sleeping. We camped the next night at Lyell, just past Anangahua, and the rain set in, making for a very damp campsite. From there we backtracked to the coast, heading for Karamea, the end of the West Coast Road. Day 7 and we were up early, driving to the famous Karamea Arches. The day before we'd met up with Matt's parents, Dave and Diane, who were also travelling around the South Island. So we did both the arch walks with them and struck a break in the rain clouds. The Oparara Arch was incredible, but my favourite was definitely the Moria Gate Arch, which you accessed via a cave entrance and could stand within the limestone arch itself. From Karamea, we did a huge day's driving back down the coast, turning at Coomera Junction and heading east. We'd booked 2 nights at Jackson's Retreat Alpine Holiday Park just before Arthur's Pass. The holiday park even had its own walk to a waterfall, which we thoroughly enjoyed with Teddy. Even better, they had undercover parking facilities, so we could escape the rain and dry everything out. We're so glad we took 2 days to just chill out here, because it rained that heavy West Coast rain almost non-stop for the next 24 hours. With everything toasty dry again, we got back on the road, into the rain clouds, shrouding Arthur's Pass. We did stop briefly in Otira, now a ghost town, but where my dad lived for a number of years as school teacher. I remember his stories of how wet and wild the weather could be, and the pass road notorious for slips. So with his words in my mind, we had a very authentic drive through the pass. However, I'm sure the Viaduct now reduces how often this road is closed due to inclement weather conditions. Call us crazy, but I really wanted to visit the Devil's Punchbowl waterfall. So we donned our rain jackets and headed out into the rain to do this walk. There was just a few people heading back to the car park as we began the walk, and they all looked like they'd been swimming. We quickly realised we were going to end up with the same fate. The spray off this waterfall on a good day is wetting. The clouds began to lift ever so slightly the more we drove east, so we kept on driving until we reached a town where the sun was shining. Springfield Domain was the first place we camped with no sandflies. We had a slow morning before packing up camp and backtracking slightly to Castle Hill. Neither of us had visited these giant limestone rocks before, and I've had them on my list since watching Lord of the Rings. We could have spent a whole day just exploring this incredible natural landscape. Matt, of course, tried to climb up, down or into every rock and cave. I just concentrated on not getting vertigo while I took in the breathtaking views. From Castle Hill, we turned off the main highway and took a gravel road towards Glen Tunnel. It was corrugated and windy, but worth it for the solitude and scenery. Matt eyed up many tracks off to the side, eventually taking one that brought us to the inlet for Lake Coleridge, where we parked up for lunch. Teddy loved being able to run free along the shore and splash in the crystal clear water. You might be wondering about travelling with your dog, and we were too. But by this point in our trip, we'd well and truly realised that Teddy was a great little traveller, and there's plenty of dog-friendly options along the road. It had meant some forward planning, but we're confident now for more road trips like this in the future with our wee mate. Camp that night would be at Whitecliffs Domain amongst the autumn leaves. After 10 days of tenting, at the last minute we decided to grab an Airbnb house for the last 2 nights of our trip. We scored an ideal place out at Waikuku Beach just north of Christchurch with a fenced backyard for Teddy to run free, Netflix for Matt and a steamy hot shower for me and a washing machine so we could do laundry. As much as we love the roof tent and camping, it was nice to have a solid base for a couple of days and just chill out. We managed to catch up with some Christchurch friends too, and then tackled the long drive home down the east coast. Our hearts now full and richer with new experiences and memories we've got to cherish.